All right. It is March. We are through the first weekend of the NCAA tournament as I mess around with my screen. It was a fun first weekend, and we are going to be talking about the prospect aspect of it. Obviously, some of the games were incredible. But we're going to focus in on who's going to help you in your Dynasty League and what stood out to us this first weekend. This is the Young Man Squad Fantasy Basketball Podcast, part of the Old Man Squad Sports Network, part of the Believe Network, and presented to you by our partners at FanDuel. And I'm going to be joined today by two Dynasty prospect draft, etc. studs that are going to be dropping a lot of expert knowledge that'll help you win your Dynasty League. This will be Zach and Brian from Dizzle Dynasty. I'm going to go ahead and bring them in here. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. It's always great to have you guys on to discuss fantasy basketball, discuss basketball, and discuss college basketball specifically so we can talk about some of these prospects. But first, Brian, I'll start with you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Noah?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be talking about hoops. Zach, how about you?
Doing very well, sir. Thank you for having us. It's been a hectic week of basketball just in totality. So yeah, just really looking forward to, seeing what we talk about.
Yeah. And there obviously is plenty to talk about and a lot of polarizing discussions being had on Twitter every single day. So if you want to read those are a lot of fun. But we're going to give you our takes on a lot of those topics. But Brian, I'll start with you for this. So just kind of give me your just any overall vibe, thoughts from that first weekend of hoops.
It was really fun. Obviously, there weren't the Cinderellas that many people were wanting or expecting, but I think the level of gameplay was at a very high level, and that is one of the beneficiaries of NIL is that the games are good, the teams are good, and a lot of the top prospects did do pretty well, all things considered, even though the only main top prospect left in the tournament is Cameron Boozer of Duke. But I think AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, all performed exceptional.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. The Cinderella point, it is kind of, is it really a Cinderella if it's a stupid SEC school? Like an 11 seed, it's Texas. Like, obviously, 11 seed, great, but it's like, dang it, it's an SEC school. Like, why couldn't it be some mid-major or something like that? Zach, what are your overall thoughts from this first weekend?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. A lot of fun. A lot of madness for sure. I mean, we had the Tyler Tanner almost half court heat. We had Allen Graves and Otega Owe going back to back. I mean, so many crazy games. We just saw the Iowa upset over Florida. I mean, just so much going on right now. And, like Brian said, not a lot of Cinderellas, but plenty of fun to be had. A lot of really close games. Unfortunately, I was disappointed with the loss of USF to Louisville. I was very hopeful about them since they were kind of the popular Cinderella, and no such luck. But, as it goes, right?
It also helps that you're a USF alum.
I am. Shout out to the Bulls.
I had picked them as well. I have my bracket. I did one printed bracket, and I have USF. So, but thankfully, I had Michigan State second round, so it didn't hurt me too bad. The bad part was I had Wisconsin Final Four. That was my devastating pick. But anyways, so we don't need brackets. Who cares? Let's just see upsets and good prospects play. Now that I'm not going to win any bracket groups. Obviously, we already talked about, or I guess all three names have been dropped. The top three guys that are, I would say, pretty much guaranteed to be the top three picks in the draft. I mean, you see Caleb Wilson's name thrown out just by some people saying, I'd take him over one or two of the guys. I'd take Darius Acuff over one or two of them. But it's like, this has been the three since a while. Like it's been like at least a full year. But even beyond that, this was like the three we've heard. I think AJ DeBonsa's name was the name I heard first, like multiple years ago. Then Cam Boozer and then Darren Peterson probably a year and a half ago for the first time. But it's like this has been the three for a while. Zach, just starting with you, like, how do you rank these three? And did anything from this first weekend, should it really drastically alter your opinion? Probably not. I think it would actually going to go ahead and throw out the disclaimer that if somebody's telling you that a player has drastically improved their draft stock, based on 1 to 2 games just in a high pressure situation that's probably incorrect. But it can tell us a little bit about a player, and it's always fun to see them on the big stage. So your thoughts on the big three of this class?
Yeah, so currently, as I have it standing, I have Cam Boozer number 1. I think for me, he is the very obvious 1.01. Nothing I'm seeing in the tournament really changes that. I will say, just kind of based on the Siena game, based on the ACC championship versus Virginia, it does elevate a couple of the concerns that we do have about Cam Boozer. But as far as that goes, I still think he is, my first overall pick. I feel pretty confident about that. So I would rank them as Cam Boozer number 1, AJ DeBonsa number 2, and then Darren Peterson at number 3.
Nice. Brian, I'll go ahead and let you get the opportunity to say you were through as well. But Zach, just real quick, like bring up the point about like the Cam Boozer, like obviously he didn't play terrible in March Madness, but like there were a couple of things where it's like, okay, maybe some of the defensive concerns, there was some turnovers, some like inefficiencies, things like that, like little concerns here and there, but like he still continues to do the thing that he's done his entire life, and that's like not lose basketball games. He's kind of just always done that, which is
absolutely.
That's the goal of NBA teams, is they're trying to win basketball games, and this guy doesn't lose basketball games. So it's it's kind of helpful. But anyways, Brian, your thoughts on the top 3?
It's an exceptional top 4, at least in my book.
It's an exceptional lottery. It's like, but I get what you're saying.
I know you mentioned some of the people on Twitter saying they got Wilson at 3. Well, I also happen to be one of those people. I actually do have
awesome.
Darren Peterson. I will say this is like splitting hairs, though. And the main reason why I would say I have Peterson at 4 right now isn't really anything to do with really what we've seen on the court. Now, granted, all the off-court stuff is completely overblown. He is an exceptional worker, quiet leader, yes, but no concerns about that whatsoever. The only thing that's making me hesitate a little bit is the extent of the injuries, because those are real. And I know he's been trying to push through it, but he's been exceptional. He's been on the court most of the time. But the tape also doesn't lie. If you look at the high school stuff versus the college stuff, he's just not moving nearly as well. And you look at the jump shot, like there are times it just looks robotic, whereas in high school it's way more fluid. And it wasn't because he just forgot how to shoot. It's that he was reportedly having full body cramping, and he's been recovering from that. Like, of course you're going to have some issues with movement. So, and at the same time, Caleb Wilson is a super athletic wing, and Darren Peterson is a guard. And Darren Peterson also, for all the injuries, has not passed the ball very well. And for me specifically, that does matter, because the players that tend to just play finishers tend to not have great outcomes. He needs to be a play initiator. And I think even despite the injuries, he could do better. Now, I'm still giving him a lot of benefit of the doubt with that. But because of that little thing, I am putting Wilson ahead. But again, it's really close. And as for the top 2, I did change my mind depending on the day. Right now, I have Boozer 1, DeBonsa 2, but it's very fit dependent. And I think they're all in a tier, and they're all exceptionally close to each other. And there's going to be probably a team I probably consider taking Darren 1. Like it's just all very, very close, and you're just kind of splitting hairs. For Dynasty in particular, it's Boozer ahead by a decent amount for what it's worth. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting cases you can make for every single prospect, the pros and cons of each of them.
Yeah, I agree entirely. And I think it's a hard thing to debate, because you're correct. It's an incredible top 4 where it's like the margin is pretty slim. So it's like, I feel like you almost have to talk negatively about some of these prospects just to like make your point, or at least that's what a lot of people do. And it's like, I don't think it's that. It's like, I have these things I like, but it's like, I don't want to have to say that these other guys suck, because that's not the case at all. It's like wherever you end up landing in the lottery, as long as it's pretty early, I think you're going to end up getting a potential franchise player in the top 4. And then still like a couple guys beyond that could be franchise altering guys. I'd currently rank them for like just real life. If I were just drafting a team, and again, it depends on fit, just like in a vacuum, I'd have Peterson 1. And I think some of the things you mentioned about like how he's moved this year, or like the injuries and stuff, is like, I've kind of got on the opposite side of that. Of like, okay, we haven't seen him healthy this year. We saw the high school tape, and he was more fluid, moved better. It was more on the ball. And I feel like when I've watched him in college this year, he's spent a lot of time off the ball, and that's led to some of the, I guess, not as good passing numbers. So it's like, hopefully he will be healthy moving forward, but it's like, it is full body cramping. It is a hamstring injury. Like, if that stuff does get worse, or if he's not healthy, like, that can be major issues. So I get that there. I'd have Boozer 2, DeBonsa 3, like, but again, splitting hairs incredibly, incredibly close. And DeBonsa's single game, the NCAA tournament, definitely does make me kind of say, like, it's like, it's not going to make him say, okay, he's the number one pick, but it's like, that's what you want to see for a guy that you're wanting to be your franchise player. Like, he just comes in there and just controls the game. Like, obviously doesn't win, but like drops 30 plus. Like, that's what you want to see. And then I have Caleb Wilson 4, but for dynasty, for fantasy, I'd go Boozer 1, Peterson 2, Wilson 3 for the stock aspect, and then DeBonsa 4, just just not as many defensive stats. And I just feel like it's just kind of something you're looking for in a category league. But again, all these guys are studs.
All of them are studs, and all of them have their warts, but every prospect has their warts. And to also kind of tally on to what you mentioned about Peterson playing off the ball, I found this stat earlier today. Did you watch the St. John's Kansas game, by the way?
I don't think I got to.
Okay. So Darren was playing off the ball for the first half. Their offense averaged 0.7 points per possession. Not good.
No.
Second half, Bill Self decides, let's put the ball in Darren's hands instead of Melvin Council's hands. And they averaged 1.3 points per possession. Like, what are we doing? Like, he can initiate the offense. Like, we've seen the playmaking in high school. And then obviously this was just one game. But the cramping and the injuries like do matter why he's not taking as much offensive usage. But it's like, I don't think Bill Self utilized him that well. But that being said, he was in and out of the lineup all year. They kind of had to play without him for a bit. So do you really blame him? Not really. And so it's really a tough thing to think about with scouting Peterson in particular, to the point where this year I'm almost just like, I'm kind of throwing most of the season out, except for like the little things of the playmaking.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Like, we've seen him be able to get downhill and be able to get by defenders when he's healthy. When he's not, it's a little bit different. And yes, he is pretty reliant on the jump shot, but he's also an exceptional shooter. And then on top of that, in high school, every single year he got like substantially better. Like, he was the only one of these big three that consistently got better every single year in some respect that like really impacted their game. And so I'm just sort of like, it's hard to say. And like I said, I have him at 4, but I don't feel good about it at all. And I don't feel good about ranking them in any order, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, even touching on the Cam Boozer thing, like I brought up earlier, like you could argue that the Siena game is like maybe his second worst game of his college career, but like, guys, he still got 22, 13, and 3 against a 16 seed, and they still won. Like, this is a guy who just produces. And like, that kind of speaks both to like my thing as far as, him being like a real life prospect and for fantasy. Like, this guy's a beast. He just does what he does. He has his areas of concern, certainly, but like, he just gets it done. He's going to like come in and like be a franchise changer to any franchise that he goes to. And that goes for all of these guys. I mean, every single one of these guys, even Caleb Wilson, like you said, Brian, where it's like, I'm at the point where like, this is a big 4, I would say. And, if you rank Caleb that high, like, I think that's totally fine. These are all guys who could really change your entire future. And it just really speaks to, I mean, it's the splitting hairs thing, like you guys both said. I mean, it really is splitting hairs.
Yeah.
I will say with respect to Boozer, the past couple of weeks, I think teams have started to figure him out a little bit more. I think specifically in the ACC tournament against Virginia, Ugana Onyenso completely handled him. And he is a interesting dynasty flyer and like the 40s type prospect. He had 8 blocks in that game, and I think 7 of them were on Boozer. Like, that's something. And then we saw it in the NCAA tournament with Siena and even TCU to an extent. Like, as soon as he turned his back onto a defender, the help side would come in and try and take away the ball, and just try and steal it from him. And it took them forever to figure it out. And even with TCU, he was still having issues, and TCU is not very big.
Right.
So we'll see, obviously, what happens continuing on in the tournament. But if you have questions about Boozer, it's a lot of the stuff that he's not really going to get better at. Like, I don't think he's going to get more athletic. He's not going to get bigger. He's a 4. He's not a 5. Obviously, you can initiate the offense, and you can maybe blame like Shire for how he's using him. But it's like he's really good at what he is. But as a prospect, like long term in the NBA, like how much better is he actually going to get?
It does make you wonder.
Yeah, and then versus like DeBonsa, where he's still pretty raw. Like he still dribbles in traffic quite often. He still will have the problems on off-ball defense. I think his on-ball defense is actually okay, and specifically the high school stuff, it was actually really good. And that's part of the reason why I'm not really panicking much about the defense with him, is because we've seen him play good defense before. And yes, it's high school. It does matter. But I think the effort was better, and I think BYU's team this year was poorly constructed, and the fact they had 6 season-ending injuries is a bit of a problem. And so am I really that surprised they lost to Texas? Like, no. When you're starting your 12th man, it's kind of tough. But specifically with the Texas game, like, people will talk about like, oh, he didn't like have a ton of assists. He made some tough shots, but he still took the bad shots. He did help his teammates. Like, I don't know what you guys were watching. His teammates were not good in that game. Rob Wright was terrible. No one else was making threes. Like, there were 3 made threes in the entire game by BYU. What's AJ supposed to do? Honestly, it was getting to a point where I was like, AJ, you just got to take every shot. Because I know people will talk about the inefficiency of it, but like, they don't have any other option. They can't guard him. Sean Miller even said it in a interview. Like, they said, I don't think we can guard him. And so it's that type of talent that NBA teams are just going crazy for. And we talk about how raw he is on offense. He still led the NCAA in scoring, 25.5 points per game. What are we doing? Like, and he's making shots that maybe 5 other people in the NBA can make. Maybe 10. But like, his ability to just like get through on double teams, split through defenders, elevate on his shot, like, you can't guard that. And the passing has gotten so much better. In fact, of the big 4 that we've talked about, he's improved the most during the season, and it's not close. Like, his processing at the start of the year was pretty bad. And we saw the passing get way better, and it opened up the floor for him. The shot got better because going into the season, it was like a flat ball, and now we're starting to see it's becoming more of a moon ball, what we're supposed to be looking at. He'll still have bad mechanics at times and have a bit more of a flat shot, but that'll get coached out, and he'll improve that. I think the off-ball defense is very fixable. You just got to get a coach on that, and you get a coach on him not dribbling into traffic. You get him in more organized sets. You have other teammates where he's not getting double-teamed every possession, triple-teamed in some cases, and then he's going to be fine. So, yeah, it's always something to keep in mind, especially for a dynasty, where if you look at if you're following draft Twitter in particular, and you're just noticing the general vibes of players, like, you might not be as high on someone like DeBonsa, but it'd be a mistake at dynasty to pass up on him after 4 in particular. Like, he's going to put up numbers, and especially in fantasy, you can make trades. And so, especially if you're just focusing on like a couple year window, and you may make a trade if you don't want them, like, you're going to get decent value back no matter what.
100%. So yeah, that's our top 4 that we've kind of talked about, but I feel like the guard conversation after that is also just as polarizing. Really, I guess it's not polarizing. There's just a lot of point guards that could go in that range. It's just like, how do you feel about Darius Acuff? I think is what's the polarizing aspect there, because depending on who you ask, he's either like the next Hall of Fame superstar point guard that should go number 1 overall in the draft, or like you sometimes see him, like outside the first round, depending on some people, which it's like, I feel like we can get a happy medium here where he's like a top 10 pick and potentially a franchise point guard on offense, but the defensive concerns are very real. And I don't want this to just be about Acuff, just like kind of this next range of point guards with Kingston Fleming, Keem Wagler, Kel Brown, LeBaron Philon. I mean, we can even go beyond that with like Braden Burries as well. Like, Zach, how do we sort out this group of point guards?
Oh man, is for me, I kind of expanded it, and I'll kind of give some context here and kind of the way that I'm thinking about this, and I'll kind of give just my full guard preference. This is just purely from spots 3 through 20 on my big board. Currently, what we have is Darren Peterson at 3. I have Kingston Flemings at 5, Keaton Wagler at 6, Braden Burries at 7, who I do really like, and I'm excited to talk about with you guys later. 8, Michael Brown. 10, Darius Acuff. I'm very torn on LeBaron Phylan. He's like anywhere from like 11 to like 14 for me. I struggle. And then 18 is Bennett Sturts. But like, you kind of get from like Michael to Sturts, and it's like, I mean, again, we talk about splitting hairs. It's like all of these guys like have their things. I really think you could like rank them in any order, especially if you are a believer in Acuff, especially. Yeah, I mean, it is just a really tough conversation, especially when it comes to specifically the point guards. I mean, the point guards in this class are really interesting. And I know I've heard some mixed things about some people saying that they've been underwhelmed. Some people say that they've been really excited. I'm kind of more on the excited side, but I do understand where people are coming from as far as just they're not really being like a huge emergence, or it's kind of a specificity to how we want to rank these guys. There's no great, like a very obvious choice past like Flemings is kind of what I'm saying. So that's kind of where I stand.
Brian, how about you for these guards?
I changed my mind on the day, frankly.
Yeah.
All those guards have something that makes them special. Kingston Flemings is an elite mover, and he can get downhill, and shows up in the clutch. Keaton Wagler is an elite shooter, not that athletic, but does all the little things that you want. And then you got Michael Brown, who has his flashes. He's been injured as well with the back injury. Something I have noticed with him is that the high school stats, he was also shooting sub 40% from the field. So I do think that is noteworthy. But at the same time, I think overall the process looks good. I just think like there's a 1 to 2 shots a game where he just kind of heat checks and just takes an ill-advised shot. You coach that out, I think it goes back to normal. And he's an elite shooter. And then you have Braden Burries, who I have at 7. He knows how to play. Like, you take out the first 5 games, and the stats look so much better. He just took a while to adjust. But he's Arizona's best player by a mile. And I've been saying it for months. He makes the engine go. He is elite in transition. He can shoot. He can defend. He doesn't try and do too much. There's a little bit of point guard stuff. He will not be a primary. It's more like a secondary type of deal. I'm a bit higher on Sturts than I am on Phylan, as we've kind of mentioned. But Phylan, for me, I just think he's just really small. And that's always been my hurdle with him. And so I just consistently, even going back to last year, had him way lower than where consensus had him. And then with Sturts, like 1 year at a high major, and he's dominating. Like, he'll still go through cold stretches. He still struggles to get by people, but the shooting's crazy. Like,
yeah.
And it gets to a point where I'm like, is he just Ty Jerome? Or is he like Malcolm Brogdon? And is that a top 10 pick? It might be. But again, also Ty Jerome took 6 years. He also was very injured during that time. And you also have the factor in that he has 1 year at a high major. Therefore, the strength programs have not been as good to Sturts. And so if he gets to an NBA strength program, does he just get way stronger? And something else I've also noticed with Sturts is that his diet wasn't exactly amazing. I've seen some little things on social media about that. So if he gets that fixed up, it can get even better. But he's really good. He impacts a lot of the advanced numbers and at a really high level. Defenders are shooting way worse when he's the nearest defender. He's basically the type of point guard in the later part of the draft that some contender is going to take him and realize, oh, this guy's actually really good. We got to play him. And so, for Dynasty in particular, this is one that probably should go higher than where he goes in real life. But but the guard class, it's fun. It's so much fun. And having to actually make those decisions on draft night to figure out which one you go with is going to be an absolute headache. And it's really going to come down to like, what do you want? Like, do you want the explosive Kingston Flemings that could be an Andrew Nemhard plus? Do you want Keaton Wagler, who could be worst case scenario Max Christie? But like I will say, I know I brought up Halliburton with Jemin one of the first times we were on here. I was more like tongue in cheek. Wagler might be the closest prospect to Halliburton we've seen, period.
I agree.
Like, the shooting's crazy. You just watch him play. It's a lot of like similar stuff. Like as soon as Kylan Boswell went out with an injury and he got put in the point guard role, that's when he exploded. And so the fact that he got better with more usage to me is like really interesting. And yes, he's not athletic. He struggles to get by people, but he's just shifty. Like he's herky jerky. He knows how to use his body to way to get by people. And it just kind of gets to a point where I'm like, are we sure this isn't just another version of Conk and Nipple with a false ceiling? Maybe. And then Burries is more like the elite role player type, maybe just a potential like Derek White type of player. Obviously not as good on defense, but like on offense, you can see the similarities. And so it's like you kind of just have to play your cards a little bit. Like, what do you want? What are you willing to bet on? And so yeah, it'll be a fun thing to look as we go through the pre-draft process to see if anyone separates themselves. For what it's worth, Burries is a little bit older than the rest of these guys. I think he's 20. He's definitely more physically developed. You can kind of tell. So maybe more perceived lower upside. But at the end of the day, when you're around that age, I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, Burries will actually be 21, I think, by the start of next season. I guess just kind of older of a, but like you said, like it's not a huge difference. Like I don't think that any NBA team is gonna be like, yeah, actually, this guy's 1 year older. It's just we just gotta forget about it altogether. As much as I think sometimes we get caught up into the players that really have a lot of success when they're 18 as opposed to 19. But then you even go beyond the guys that we mentioned, like we talked about it before, like Tyler Tanner. I don't think either of you guys said him there. It's like Christian Anderson. The Stanford point guard who isn't playing in March Madness, Ibuka Corey, you can get like he's incredibly shifty and a really good self creator as well, a little undersized, but like Brian, can you share with me your thoughts on how you expect Darius Acuff to translate as an NBA prospect? Because we've seen reports already that like the Kings really like him and that the Kings are interested in drafting him. And then I think Coach Cal was at a Kings game after, if I'm remembering that correctly. So it's like, is there already conversations happening there? Are the Kings going to kind of take him no matter what? Or like, assuming they're outside of the top 3 or so. And like, how much of because I think I've said this either on other podcasts or on this one, I don't remember specifically everything pushed together, but it's like, as a Hawks fan who enjoyed the highs and lows of the Trae Young experience for 8 years, where it's like the offense is unreal. He's an incredible scorer, incredible shooter, one of the best passers in the league, but the defense was really bad. And I think the difference here is Acuff's a little bigger. So like maybe like for Trae Young for a while, it was the effort. And then it was like, okay, he is trying and he is making some plays here and there, but he's also still just an undersized guard. It's not a great defender. And you already see so many clips of Acuff in NCAA tournament games where the effort is entirely just lacking. So like, is this something where it's like, okay, like he's going to get onto an NBA team and when they're ready to compete, like there will be more effort. Maybe he can be a competent enough defender and the offense is going to be so good that it doesn't necessarily matter? Or is this going to be something that really holds him back as a player?
So to kind of preface what I'm going to say here, I think Sam Vecini had an interesting point on one of his podcasts where he said, I think a lot of these like smaller guards should be like compared to like running backs in the NFL, where you focus on the rookie contract, but if you pay them more once the rookie contract's over, it gets a little dicey. And specifically with Acuff, like I think I've thought about the Trae Young and how that's gone, specifically with Acuff. And yes, Acuff is bigger, but he's not that much bigger. And are we sure he's 6'3"? I'm not entirely sure. He might be 6'1", 6'2". We'll see. But I will say Acuff is another person that has improved a lot during the year. especially the first couple games where I was like, yeah, I don't know. This is not my type of player. And then the passing got way better. His shot selection got better. The 3-point shooting, I think he's almost like 50% off the catch this year. Like, so I'm not worried about him like really shooting it that much, even though the high school stuff was a little bit iffy. I think it will regress a little bit, but I'm not really worried about it long term. I think ultimately it comes down to like his margin of error is so slim. If there any injury comes and saps any of that athleticism, I think it gets a little like really iffy. I do wonder if maybe he's like a better passing version of Keontae George. Maybe. But at the same time, it took Keontae a few years. And if he's not that level of score, better or worse, if he's worse, I've thought a lot about Colin Sexton, and that Sexton like tries on defense. He's just really small and he can't defend like that. And Acuff's a better passer, but he's also a way worse defender. So is that the type of player we're looking at with Acuff? Is he that spark plug scorer off the bench? I mean, we'll see. But at the end of the day, one of the things that can be true is that in terms of college, Darius Acuff is probably the best point guard that John Calipari's ever had. Out of all the point guards I've gone through that system, specifically for college, I'm not sure anyone's been better. And so I think that's why a lot of people have gotten up in arms about it, because on offense, it's unbelievable. The defense, I mean, Arkansas is better with him off the court on defense. That is not good, especially for an NBA projection. Some of it is effort, but I think the effort has gotten better recently. But again, he's small. So what do I do with that? I'm still trying to figure that out. I personally have him at 9. I know Zach said he had him at 10. But personally, for me, Acuff goes down to a tier between 9 and like 15. I think he's clearly below Burries, Wagler, Michael Brown. Personally, for me, even though I recognize like Michael Brown's had a way worse season than Acuff, Michael Brown's just bigger. With Acuff, it's just like I really want to buy in, but the defense just holds me back a little bit. If there is any way, any coach, any system that could figure out a way to make a competent defense around him, he's probably going to be an all-star. It wouldn't surprise me. And this is coming from someone that I did not like Acuff in the preseason. It took me a long time with him. But yeah, like the offense is just undeniable at this point.
Yeah, it is going to be like there is that upside of it being, like you said, like all-star level type of score, as long as somebody can make up for the defensive issues. So I agree with you that I think the upside, just based off like the numbers even we've seen recently, I think if you just got into looking at things over the past couple of weeks, you'd probably say, yeah, this guy should definitely go top 5. But it's like that upside is certainly undeniable. Another SEC guard, Zach, I know you wanted to talk about Tyler Tanner, and I'd love to get your thoughts on him because I'm arguably like pretty similar to Acuff. It's like some people have him as like, oh yeah, no, he's potential top 10 guy, and then some people are like, are you crazy? He's way too small. Like, why would we take this guy inside the first round? He needs to go back to school. Like, what are your thoughts on Tyler Tanner?
Oh man. I just struggle. I've had this conversation with Brian at least like a dozen times over the last like month or two. And like, I mean, look, like you look at like the performances in the tournament, like even just, 26 versus McNeese, 27 versus Nebraska. He averaged, 26.5, 4.5, 4.5 assists, 2.5 steals. Shot pretty, decently, all things considered. He is able to dunk, he's listed at 6 feet tall. There's no way he's 6 feet tall. Is he maybe 5'10"? I don't know. Hopefully.
We have official measurements on him from over the summer. He's 5'10".
Okay, so he's 5'10".
5'10"
Okay.
to be exact, but yeah.
Okay, so that's just really like where I come in, where I'm like, all of this stuff, he can clearly play. A lot of people, talk about, spreadsheet people versus eye test people. He passes both with flying colors. Okay, he's just a good player. I mean, like you watch him in the tournament, he's so obviously a good player. The metrics are off the charts. It's just really like that tough sell where I'm like, he is 5'10", like what do we do with that? And I've heard a lot of things said about someone who is able to play above his height. Maybe he does play closer to like a 6'3", 6'4", and that is true. He is somebody who does play above his height. But I do think there is a difference between being undersized and playing up to your height as a guard versus being like a wing or like a forward or any other position. It's just, like Brian said with Darius Acuff, it is just such like a small margin of error. And that's kind of just like what I wonder about with Tanner, just how much NBA teams are going to value him. It's very obvious he can just play. A lot of his stuff in his game is outliery stuff. The question is just really, is he able to be that outlier? So that's just why I really struggle with him. For what it's worth, up until this most recent big board update that I'm working on, he was in my first round. Previous boards, he was about in like the early to like mid 20s range, because I just think he is that good where he can play. It's just really what's holding me back is the height. I just have no idea exactly like how good he's going to be able to be at the NBA level. Same thing with the fantasy game. It's undeniable. He's so obviously skilled. So I just struggle with them a lot. And I'd be curious to kind of hear where you guys come in with that too.
I mean, for me, the small guards that are playing in the NBA typically have one or two things. They're an elite shooter or like real offensive engine, like Trae Young, or they're super built, like your Fred VanVleet, Aaron Holiday, or your Jose Alvarado, essentially. Is Tanner Jose Alvarado? Maybe, but you can even see it here on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. 170 pounds.
Yeah.
That's not enough. Now, do you think he'll get stronger? Yes. Now, there's a lot of outlier stuff. Like, he is a really good point guard, college point guard, at the very least. And one of my biggest hangups with him is NBA teams routinely tell us, like, they don't value these smaller guards. He's going to probably fall on draft night, despite the outlier stuff. And then here's the other thing. With how NIL has gotten, and reportedly, it's either going to stay the same this year or go up. That was via Kevin Sweeney. We saw JT Toppin last year go for $4 million. Does Tanner get four? Does he get 5? And at that point, if he does, that's equivalent to like a pick 11. So unless he's getting at the minimum like a top 20 promise, and that's even being like conservative on the NBA side, why should he come out? Like, why? Like, if you want to talk about a guard that's getting a little bit of draft buzz now in the second round is Braden Smith. Like, Tanner's a better prospect than Smith. I think that's no question. But with how the margin of error is so slim, if the athleticism falls off at all due to any injury, those blocks are not the same. The steals are probably not the same. And at what point, what is he? Like, I've compared him to Ryan Nembhard a little bit in the sense of like a really good point guard, really good. But he's pretty reliant on athleticism, and especially if you're just buying into him mainly because of the stock numbers, like that's great. Like he's got real unreal feel for the game, and the steals that he gets, like those are translatable. But at the same time, like he's going to get hunted on defense in the regular season and in the playoffs, even if he is on the court. Like, and I think a player that will be very critical to his stock will be Reed Shepherd, because he had very similar outlier stats. Reed is way bigger than what he is, and Reed's not big. But if Reed can't play in the playoffs, why are we obsessing over Tyler Tanner? Because Reed's got, frankly, better steal numbers. He's a way better shooter. And Tanner, like, his shooting's got to get better. Like, it is like his fourth option on offense. And I do think he will shoot eventually, but if he's not really a threat to shoot, teams are going to really pay attention to him. Like, the volume needs to go up and the efficiency needs to go up. If he does, and then we could be talking lottery next year. Like, it is completely possible. But at the same time, it's hard to really take it super seriously, at least personally for me, just based off the fact that we know the NBA teams do not value this position and this archetype very much. I want to buy in. Ridiculously fun player. Vanderbilt has probably been my favorite watch all season, and he's a big reason why. I just don't see it for this season.
Yeah, and that's entirely fair that he could go back to college for another year, get a ton of money in NIL, and then, I mean, arguably what you would call a weaker class. Could he go even earlier next year? It's definitely an argument. The Reed Shepherd comparison, or I guess like argument, is interesting. Is like we saw Reed Shepherd get hunted like first game of the season, where it was like such like a big thing, where it was like, oh, see, Reed Shepherd was never worth a top 3 pick because he can't guard the defending champions. Like, you know, he's gotten better as the season gone on. Obviously, he's still an undersized guard, but we've seen like really like since the All-Star break, Reed Shepherd's had some like monster fantasy games. And I think that's kind of the interesting thing here, because I mean, this is still as much as we love just talking about the prospects, like still like a dynasty show, like talking about what Tyler Tanner could be as a fantasy player, like getting the good assist numbers, the good scoring numbers, the steals specifically, I think would be the most attractive thing. Is it like, could this be a player where it's like, there's huge question marks about how he fits on a team that, is playing in the playoffs, or like how he impacts winning. But it's like the winning that he does is for your fantasy team. And this works out really well because he ends up earning enough minutes where he's contributing a ton. And then in the playoffs, there's question marks, but he's already won you your fantasy championship at that point. So that could be, I think, something that I like about Tyler Tanner is the fact that a lot of those, same thing with Reed Shepherd, is it like there are certainly question marks about how this works at the NBA level, like in the playoffs, but during fantasy season, I think it looks like it's going to work out great.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
For what it's worth, he was like the second best player in fantasy for college basketball this year.
Oh yeah.
Like Boozer was 1. He was like 2, or like it was at least top 5. Yeah, he was 2. Like he's going to be awesome in fantasy. And if he comes out this year, that is a top 20 dynasty asset minimum for like the rookies.
That's a bold statement, but yeah, for the rookies, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's just like, I don't think he's going to come out. That's my thing. And I think he would be the type of player a college coach would be like, we'll give you a bonus if you don't test. Because we saw it last year with JT Toppin. We know college coaches are looking for stability. Tanner might be that.
All right, let's keep moving to discuss just, like I said at the beginning, we're not totally changing our opinions on any players just based on what happens during March Madness. But did anything stick out to you guys? Zach, I'll start with you. Like players that may have risen or fallen ever so slightly, or players that maybe like things you had questions about they didn't really answer, or maybe they did answer questions and that causes you to feel a little bit better or worse about them, just based on the first weekend, or I guess if you want to go back the past couple of weeks of college basketball season.
Yeah, so I'll say for one that I've kind of changed my opinion on just over the last probably month or so is Adai Mara. I've been a skeptic of him since his early days at UCLA, but the way he's just taken a leap with Michigan, I think I've bought in at this point. He's just been straight up excellent. I mean, the basic pitch, if you're giving it, is pretty easy to sell people on. He's a 7'3" big man who can block shots, protect the rim. He can pass the rock, play really well with other big men. I think that's a very understated part of his profile, is he's played great with Morez Johnson and Yaxel Lendeborg. And as we've seen in recent years, it is just kind of a bankable arrangement of skills that teams like, especially the passing part. And I've just started to anticipate he may just go way higher than I expect. And just kind of seeing his play, especially in the tournament, just kind of solidified it. If you want kind of a basic pitch again of his fantasy game, versus Howard, 19 points, 8 for 10 from the field, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 blocks, 1 turnover, 0 fouls in 21 minutes. Versus St. Louis, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks, 1 steal, 1 turnover, 1 foul in 26 minutes. Like, as I kind of read this, he generates these numbers. Like, this is going to be a guy who, I think when I put out my first rookie rankings, I had Mara just too low. And I kind of felt like that from the jump, where I was like, I just think I'm going to be too low. Well, evidently I am, I would say. So that is one thing that is changing. And, it's not that I don't still have questions. I think there are certainly things, especially for his size, weight, conditioning, just the defensive, schemes that he would fit in the NBA. I do have questions just about like whether he's like a full long-term starter, kind of like what the role looks like. But I mean, again, he has all of these things that teams are going to like. And, again, just kind of seeing it over the last couple of weeks and especially in the tournament. I mean, the guy's just awesome. We talk about just guys who just know how to obviously play. Mara looks like he can obviously play. And I've really changed my mind on that. And that's been quite a joy to watch.
Yeah, he's been, on this Michigan team, which, by the way, if we check out our partners at FanDuel, Michigan's currently the betting favorite to win the national championship at plus 290, followed by Arizona at plus 400, Duke at plus 420, and Houston at plus 650. I think beyond that, you're looking at the next closest being Purdue at plus 1300. So looking like, just based on betting odds, those four would be the favorite. But Michigan is a stacked team with 3 guys that could potentially, like you said, just go earlier than maybe we were expecting it, even just going back a couple of weeks. Like Mara and Morris Johnson, I think, are 2 guys that I've seen really go up boards recently. The latest no ceilings mock, I think, had all 3 with Yaxel Enderberg included going top 16, which is like, that's saying a lot. But like, those are the type of players that are on the team. It's why that they are the betting favorite. But also, yeah, I think Mara, especially just looking at this recent, I guess, last few years trend of like super big, can block shots, but can also pass. Like that's
right.
Really, really intriguing for fantasy. I mean, this is not a great comparison, but like a big man that can pass, I would say Maxime Reynaud is a pretty good passer for a big, and we've seen him play really, really well recently. Not obviously the shot blocker, so it's not a direct comparison, but like, we've also seen guys like Zach Edey, where it's like just incredibly big guys, but are incredible shot blockers, really good defenders. Like, again, not a direct comparison, but some really attractive bigs for fantasy basketball. Brian, if you want to talk about Mario, you're more than welcome. But like, any risers or fallers from you from the first weekend or the past few weeks?
So I'll just echo what you guys said on Mara already. He was one I also bumped up a little bit, not specifically because of this game, but over the past 2 weeks, I've been like, am I just underrating the fact he's 7'3" and can block shots and can throw passes that a quarterback would make. And I just, after seeing the St. Louis game, I was kind of like, yeah, I've been undervaluing this. I need to bump him up a little bit. As for specific risers, I thought Dalen Swain was one that kind of grew on me a little bit. I know that's been one that is very popular on Twitter. Personally, I've been a bit more skeptical for a few reasons, but I saw enough of the in-between things to where even if he doesn't shoot, I could still see a role. He still gives me Najee Marshall vibes. And for what it's worth, on like corner threes, what do you think he's shooting on the season, Noah?
I have no frame of reference. If you would love the number though.
It is like shockingly low. It is, I believe it's like 25%. And that's like on 12 shots. Yeah.
Interesting.
No. Sorry, I got that wrong. 20% on 10 shots from the corners from 3.
Oof.
And one of those threes was in the BYU game. So it was worse entering the tournament. All of his threes are like right in front of the basket. I can't remember the word for it right now. But I saw enough to where I'm like, I think like he will shoot it long term. The shot needs more work than what people are giving it credit for. Yeah. And I do not think he's going to be a primary option like some people think. I think if it does work, it'll look a lot closer to Denny Abdia than Franz Wagner, as some people have been throwing out. But I like as a Najee Marshall comp, and not even saying that specifically because he went to Xavier, like Najee Marshall's a really good player. Like he's a really good bench scorer, and that's kind of how I'm seeing Swain now. And seeing him in that BYU game and a little bit with the NC State game and a little bit before that too, I'm like, okay, I can at least see where people are talking about now with him, even though I'm not buying the top 10 stats at all. Another one, especially for the tournament, I noticed specifically with Duke, even though Pat Ngongba didn't like really play in that Siena game, but he played a bit in the TCU game and it wasn't that amazing. It was noticeable how much Duke needed him when he wasn't there. And I think that to me was more of a statement of like, oh, he is impactful. And I knew he was impactful. It was just he would disappear from games like consistently, but the highs are really high. You'll see if you follow Twitter, like this will be another one you see pretty high. Here's the problem with him. 3 straight years of lower leg injuries. Senior year in high school, last year, and this year. And it's a consistent lower body injury. I think there is an equal chance that he ends up being Robert Williams and ends up being useful for fantasy, but still getting hurt, as it is equal to him playing under 100 games in the NBA due to injury. So where am I at with him? He's another one where I'm like, I think teams are also just expecting the medicals to be pretty bad. And at that point, does he just go because the medicals probably aren't going to get better, or does he just stay for more money? I think it's going to just come to a point, what does he want? And I'm guessing he comes out and he probably gets drafted in the first round, but this is not someone I see being a starter at all. This is like Rob Williams, like Portland Rob Williams to me. And if you go in with that expectation, I don't think you'll be that disappointed. But if you go in thinking he's going to be this stud, there's going to be a lot of frustration. And then the last one I want to talk about with risers, specifically on my end, was Malik Thomas. He's been really good recently. I'm still not sure he comes out, but he is the running mate to Darius Acuff. If you're not aware, this gives like prime like Malik Monk vibes. He still plays with he plays a little erratic, but I feel very confident that next season, if he comes out, like he could go top 10 because the scoring and the shooting is real. And there's like some size there. I think the defense has been okay. I think it could be better, but it's been okay. And then I think you got Jordan Smith coming in next season, who'll be a great compliment to him if he goes back. Like he'd be primed for a breakout, in my opinion. But yeah, that's kind of considered for my risers.
Zach, any others you wanted to add to that list?
Yeah, just very briefly, I did want to touch on Braden Burries. I know Brian gave a good sales pitch earlier. The guy just knows how to play. I mean, he really is the best player on Arizona by a long shot, and I think it is extremely obvious when you watch him. I mean, and that's part of why, for me personally, I don't want to speak for Brian here, but that is part of the reason why I just have him so high at 7. Is like this guy just obviously knows how to play. He brings a ton of skills. He very much is in that Swiss Army knife guard mold. Brian mentioned Derek White. I mean, that is exactly who I love for him. I think that would be a fantastic outcome. I see a little bit of Nickeil Alexander-Walker as well. I think that is going to be a more popular one, especially for the numbers part of it, but I think it is there for sure. I think the defense is going to be really interesting. I would say right now he probably is the best defender of the guards that I kind of had up top. I mean, I think Darren Peterson projects to be a good defender. I think he probably will be a net positive defender of the NBA. But I do think that, to kind of quote someone like Bill Simmons, the guy just tries. He tries and he works really hard. And I just think that's going to be very obvious that Braden Burries is just worth that high of a pick. I've spoken at times on this podcast and elsewhere kind of about role malleability and just why that's important to me. But, Burries just has that same malleability. He knows how to impact the game. He can play on or off the ball. He's just one of those guys, you tell him to do something and he'll do it regardless of the role. So that's just something I really like about him.
Yeah. So let's, for the sake of time, anybody else that y'all wanted to highlight that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
I did want to talk a little bit just about Nate Amen. It's just kind of been a rocky season for him, and we can just really spend a few minutes on this one. Just kind of an up and down season on the whole. Not a good start. Turned it on around conference play, started to rise up again, and then just kind of dropped off again towards the end. He's finished the season on some real stinkers here. I just think it's been really clear that the ankle injury has impeded him down the stretch, and especially during the tournament. Rick Barnes himself even explicitly said that, where he's not going to be 100% really until they're done. It's just hard to ignore even still. I I mean, the 0 points against Miami, Ohio was going to ring the loudest. Not a great game against Virginia as well. He was able to do a little better, 16 points, 4 for 11 from the field. But it's still, even still just been a not great season for him. We had kind of talked a little bit about this before the podcast started, but these guys go high in the draft all the time. Like we just saw Zachary Risacher go first overall 2 summers ago. And, obviously things haven't gone great on that front, but like we know front offices do value these guys with size. And like, I don't want to be like kind of derivative about that, but like, look, he is going to be someone who probably ends up going fairly high. He's definitely trending down for sure though. It is somebody I just want to talk about as kind of a faller. I brought this up before the podcast. I do just want to bring it up again because I love the way Brian says it. He feels a lot like Cam Johnson just trying to be Kevin Durant. And I just think that's a really true statement that he just kind of feels, I guess, a little miscast on the season. And it's kind of why I'm at least hopeful that an NBA staff has a good idea of how to develop him. Again, how high you want to take him, I don't know. But again, I think there is something to be said about just what he looks like when he gets a really strong development staff. They get their hands on him. So I just felt like I wanted to bring that up there.
He's also been like really iffy with the efficiency all year. And I think that's been one of the biggest problems with him is that I think like you can see right there, it's like 53% true shooting. Like that's not very good. And so, and like you watch him for like a lot of the season, like he looked like a gazelle that anytime he got pushed around, he would just like fly everywhere. Like, and all those limbs would fly everywhere. So it's just like, what do I do with him? I'm not sure. Like during SEC play, like he started being more aggressive. He's tough, and that really shows up on film. Mm-hmm. So I heard someone mention someone that was at the Virginia game is that like you could feel him grimace in pain anytime he hit the floor. Like he is not healthy. I'm sort of ready to just kind of like throw out whatever happens in the tournament just because of the injury, and more just focus on what happened the season before the injury. Now, he was also trending down before he got hurt. That's also something to keep in mind. But at the end of the day, like I think he's a better prospect than someone like Patrick Baldwin. And he does remind me a bit of him as a really like low-end comp. But a 6'10 shooter that like I think he can shoot. He did put on like 20 pounds over the summer, something like that. And I think that messed with the shot a little bit. But you watch the high school stuff, you can clearly see he has touch and it goes in. And I think that will be the case in the NBA once it starts to get a little more like used to the length and how much force he has to put on his arms. But I'm not sure he'll be like an elite shooter, but I think he'll be like serviceable enough. And those like we saw DeAndre Hunter like get traded for Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. And DeAndre Hunter's not a good defender. Like, but these guys are wanted. And I know, yes, people say, oh, it's the Kings, but like there's a reason why these teams always draft these wings. And so he's probably going to go higher than what I'd prefer to take him. And he's probably going to be mediocre for a while. But if it works, it'll really work. And maybe he's like a Chandler Parsons type. I don't really see that. But that type of player is really valuable.
We are getting quite the array of comps here for Nate Ament. That's just like so many different, like every wing possible. It's like, yeah, maybe he's them. That'd be interesting. It's like be really interesting to see how he does. I was just pulling up the tankathon comparison of Risacher's last season and Nate Ament's season this year, and Risacher shot the ball significantly better from deep and from the floor, which is just like worrisome because it's like Risacher was, oh, this guy can shoot, he's just not shooting it well, and then he started shooting well like towards the latter half of the season. Yeah, and still just shot the ball significantly better than Ament has this year, and that's against professional competition. I don't know. It'll just be interesting. I think it's the idea. It's like you were saying, like the archetype that is like if it works out, it's so incredibly valuable that it's worth taking this risk, and that's why we continue to see bad draft pick after bad draft pick in hindsight every single year. But it's like, yeah, but like what if this guy like pans out and he is this 6'10" scoring machine that I said this before. I was like, if you are comparing someone to Kevin Durant, you probably just need to like tone down how you feel about them. If you're just saying, yeah, but like, what if they're Kevin Durant? Because they're not going to be Kevin Durant. So if there is like this, hey, this guy can be a really nice floor spacer, like a tall floor spacer, that is able to be an impactful defender that can do it a little bit off the dribble, maybe here and there, it's like that's valuable enough. And then, of course, there is the ceiling of whatever else he could be. Oh, right. Any let's just end on a fun note of Brian, starting with you. Who was your original champion in your bracket, and do you have an updated champion?
Mine was Arizona. I'm sticking to it. That team's a wagon. They've got at least an entire starting lineup of NBA dudes. Toby Walker probably gets a look. Anthony Orso probably gets a look. Like they just, and that's what I think I've noticed is that if you pick the team that has the most NBA prospects, even if it's borderline, they tend to do really well. And Duke's got a team full of them. That's how them playing. And you saw it last year at Florida. They had Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin, Will Richard. This year on the same team, Thomas Houck, Alex Condon, Ruben Chinyelu, Micah Hanlockton. Like, it matters. It all matters.
Zach, what about you?
Yeah, my original choice was Michigan, and I'm still feeling pretty good about that. I will be sticking to my guns on that one, although Brian, you make a very compelling case for Arizona, and I was very close. I did a couple different brackets with friends and family and other people. Majority had Michigan, did have a couple Arizona. I do feel really good about Arizona, but yeah, I'm gonna stick with Michigan for now, I think.
Yeah, I have Michigan as well, and I'll stick with them because I feel like it'd be like, I gave you guys the opportunity, but like really, like you shouldn't be like going away from your pick at this point, especially if they're still in. So
yeah,
I don't know. That's gonna do it. I think I told you this, Brian, before. I'm like, we'll definitely have you guys back on. Plan to have you guys on more than I have so far. So like, especially as the draft approaches, the summer approaches, we'll definitely continue to do this. But what do you guys have coming up that we should be on the lookout for?
Oh man, we've got so much coming. Right now we've got Brian starting to release his many scouting reports. Every single year, Brian does a massive haul of scouting reports on different players. Those have started this past week and they are already killing it. Brian does a really incredible job. He works super hard. They are amazing every single year. And I think this is the best year yet. So definitely be sure to check those out. We got those posting on Dynatize as well as our Substack, digital-dynasty.substack.com. Lots of content coming as usual. The scouting reports. We've got ranks coming this week. We just dropped rookie ranks just a few days ago. We've got a lot coming out all the time. And we also have an interesting announcement that we're excited to make within the next week or so about just more places where you can engage with the whole Dizzleverse, as we call it. So definitely stay tuned for that. But yeah, a lot of content coming as always, especially from now until the summer. It's going to be a full sprint to draft season.
Yeah, and if people are just wondering, Dizzle Dynasty Discord coming. So
there you go. I wasn't sure if we should say it, but we'll say it.
Yeah, I will say it. It's kind of an interesting story of how it's come about, but yeah, that'll be coming on the horizon pretty soon.
Awesome. So there'll be, like they said, a lot of content coming out, a lot of ways to engage with them. You can follow them at Dizzle Dynasty and at Wearadose. I'm just calling it Wearadose. I don't know if there's an official pronunciation. Fine. Okay, Wearadose 1221. I'll have both of those in the description for this episode, as well as the link to your Substack and to Dynatize. So everyone that's watching can go ahead and check you guys out, follow them, check out their content, be on the lookout for it. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Young Man Squad Fantasy Basketball Podcast, part of the Old Man Squad Sports Network, part of the Believe Network, and presented to you by our partners at FanDuel. And to Zach and Brian, thank you guys so much for joining me for this episode.
Yes, sir. Thank you as always.
Thank you so much.